Hello, Bon Jody, and welcome to What a Load of Ship, the podcast where I, Gary Walsh, talk all things cruising, what it's like to live and work on board a cruise ship. If you are enjoying this podcast, make sure that you like, subscribe, and follow wherever you are listening, and give us a little rating as well. And if you're watching on YouTube, hi! You can also follow us on our social medias at What a Load of Ship Pod on Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook. Now, today I am joined by a very special guest. She used to work in the youth department on cruise ships for a very, very long time, for about 15 years, and we come from the same area, so we've been put in touch, which is absolutely brilliant. She is very warm, she is absolutely lovely, and got lots and lots of stories to tell. We could have literally sat and spoke for hours, so we have decided that we are going to do a part 2 episode and rearrange that. We're from the town in Hebburn, so we do reference Hebburn a lot, which is in the northeast of England, and we talk about lots of things: Christmas on board, the good things, the bad things, finding love, and getting on a cruise ship for the very first time. It's nice to have somebody who's not a performer, so it gives a little bit of a different perspective on life at sea. So sit back, relax, all aboard, and enjoy my lovely interview with Lynne Worthington-Bianchi. And Lynne joins me now. Hello, Lynne. Thank you so much for coming on the pod.
Hi, Gary. No problem at all. I'm excited.
It's brilliant. We were just talking there briefly, and we were saying how we're from the same area, but we'd never met, we'd never come across each other before, which is crazy.
It is crazy. Like, Heburn's not exactly a huge place. It's a big age difference, but still, it's crazy. It's such a small world at how connections then come together, isn't it? Like,
I know.
later on.
And that's the amazing thing about ships.
Yes.
You know, there's so many people that I've come across in my life, and I remember, I'm going to start this really, really quickly. I remember I was on a Cunard ship, which we'll come to with you, but I was on stage on Queen Elizabeth, and I noticed my physics teacher sat in the front row. I'm like, what? And I went over, I was dressed as a bellboy in the show, and I went over and I was like, hello, mister. And he genuinely thought I was coming to like take his bag or something like that because I was dressed as a bellboy. And I was like, no, I'm Gary Walsh. He went, no way. Like, just that's what brings everyone together, isn't it? This craziness of ships.
It is crazy. It's a really small world, and there's so many people that you meet along the way, and so many paths that cross.
Yeah.
That just make your life so much more richer, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Well, let's get into it. As a kid, had you ever been on a cruise ship, or had you even seen a cruise ship?
Well, I mean, if you count the Shields ferry, then yeah, but other than that, absolutely not. Like, that was the closest I'd come. And you used to see we still see the ships coming in and out the Tyne going to Amsterdam.
Yeah.
Still not exactly cruise ships, they're still classed as ferries, but that was like, wow, oh my God. I didn't know anybody that worked on one, didn't know anybody that had cruised as a holiday. I mean, that's not what people in Hebburn did. And
no.
I mean, Hebburn is such a small town, and I absolutely love the place. And I spent my life between Hebburn and South Shields. I very rarely crossed the water. But it just wasn't talked about. So I went to college. I went to South Tyneside College and did my nursery nursing. And I remember this girl come in and gave a talk and told us about where the nursery nursing course could lead us. And she briefly mentioned holiday parks and cruise ships, and then said, but people don't really get that chance, and moved on. And that was it. But that stuck in my head. And then I was working at, I used to be a teaching assistant at Beadwell Primary. Absolutely, like, loved the job, loved the kids, loved my colleagues. It was an amazing time. We did so much there. But I thought, no, there's more out there. There is more to this world. Like, it's not just South Tyneside.
Yeah.
Went to Hebburn Library, got a book because the internet wasn't around. Well, it was around, but not
like it is now.
Yeah, I didn't use it. I found this book in Hebburn Library, and it said How to Work on a Cruise Ship. That was the title of the book.
Wow.
And yeah,
next 15
years was just.
So it was just on a whim. You were like, do you know what? There's more to life out there. There's more. Yeah. There's more to Hebburn. And how old were you at the time, if you don't mind me asking?
God, how old was that? It was 2003. Oh my God. How do
Quick
it
maths. Quick
bad?
maths. 20s?
24.
Right. So that's still, that's an age where, you're starting to get settled in your career. You're starting to,
Yeah.
do like start to build on what you're doing at the time. But you were like, no, I need something different.
Yeah, and I think people, I don't know, I think you've either got that travel book or you haven't.
Yeah.
Like, my brother went out to work in India and come back like early, like absolutely hated it, never wanted
Right.
to leave again, liked to be at home in his own bed. You could have sent me anywhere and I was happy. Like at 6, I went away with the brownies and you weren't supposed to. You were supposed to be 9, but I was like, I'm getting there, whether, I,
Yeah, I can handle this.
I'm getting there. Um, I think you can either put a backpack on your back and you want to do it or you don't. And
Yeah,
I think if you've got that drive in you, you'll find the way. You will.
absolutely. So you saw this book, you got this book out of Heaven Library.
Uh-huh.
And then what was the next stage where were you applying for loads of different cruise lines? And then what was like the process of you being hired on your first ship?
Yeah, so I applied everywhere. Holland America, Carnival, Royal Caribbean, P&O and Cunard. Who else did I apply for? I applied for Norwegian. I applied just everywhere because there was a
Yeah.
list in the back of the book of loads of recruitment addresses, and I just sent letters off everywhere. Believe it or not, I got a reply from every single company. But I think it's because people didn't know how to do it. I just
Yeah.
across this book, and I think if it was like it is now, we advertise on Facebook, all the social media platforms. It's great. Everyone can see it. There's a lot more competition now. So basically, we're like, oh, this girl has found us. Like,
Someone's done it. Brilliant.
but I decided like I'd gotten interviews with everybody, and all the interviews were London based. That was another thing. Nobody came up north.
No.
Nobody, and that's something I did change with P&O actually, because nobody did. Like we had to travel down, but the difference with P&O and what did it for me was, I mean, I was skint. I had no money. They paid for everything or reimbursed you for everything, whereas other companies didn't.
No.
So I was like, well, do you know what? This is kind of my only option at the time. I couldn't afford to go out and buy a load of uniform and fly here, there, and everywhere.
Yeah.
They paid for it. So that actually sold it for us. And I thought, right, this is the company. I'm going to go for an interview with them. If it doesn't work out, then I'll go back to the other companies and maybe save some money to be able to afford to pay me way and get down for interviews and things. But I got the job. So
Yeah. So Oceana was your first ship.
yes,
Yeah.
my ship. I own that ship.
I always say that with my first one. I'm like, she's my baby. I
Yeah,
always call her my baby.
100%. I felt like I ran the ship. Like even the captain used to, well, depending on which captain was on, used to come over and be like, "What do you think of this, Lynne?" I'd be like, "Yes or no." Like we had such a like close relationship with everybody. It was a small ship.
Yeah.
Oh, will forever, like forever be in my heart.
What do you remember the feeling of the moment? I'm assuming you got on in Southampton.
Yes.
Yeah. So what's that feeling of like approaching the ship for the very first time? Probably seeing a cruise ship bigger than the Shields Ferry for the first time.
I couldn't quite believe it. I remember, I'll never forget getting to the terminal, and even back in the day, the terminal was a shed. It was a metal shed. Like there was no like real big check-in, plush chairs, lounges, or anything. And I was thinking, oh my God, what have I done? Like, what is this? There's not even like, nothing on the floor. I'm walking just on the ground. I'm in, yeah, it was an empty shed with a lot of like metal railings, and you just had to snake through these metal railings. And then I remember coming to the gangway, and I just thought, what have I done? I'm going to get lost. I'm going to get lost. Like I'm never going to find my way.
Yeah.
Know anyone? Like where none of my friends are there. Nobody's going to understand us. I've got a massive Geordie accent. How am I going to do this? What have I done? And I'm not going to lie to you. Until that moment, I'd not thought about any of that.
No.
Just excited that I was going to these new places, and I hadn't actually thought about the logistics of different languages. The ship was actually so big that how would I find my way from my cabin to work on a morning? That's different.
Yeah.
Walking from Vimy Avenue down to Beadwell. I mean, it was bigger than that. Like, so, and all of my family and friends had said to me from the beginning, are you joking? You're giving up a full-time permanent job with the education department that you could have for the rest of your life and they're paying your pension. What, you're just going to give it up and go and see what happens? And I still then, when people said that to me, it hadn't like really sunk in what I was doing until I saw that gangway. And even the gangway, I thought, like, what is it going to move when I step on it? Like, how am I going to get my suitcase up there? Because as crew member, as you know, don't carry your cases for you. You've got to take your own.
They don't at all. No matter how long that terminal is, no matter how long the walk from the check-in to the ship is, you are carrying your own cases up that gangway.
40 kilos worth.
Yeah.
Life in a bag. Like, you've packed everything up, and that the nerves, and I'm not a nervous person. I just think just do it and see what happens. I don't really care what people think either. If I'm truthfully honest, I do what I want to do, and I always have done. But in that moment, there was a different side to me where I was terrified. I felt physically sick, and I just could have cried.
Yeah.
And I thought, just come on, Lynne, like, fine, where's Lynne gone? Where is she? But she disappeared.
Yeah.
Once I was on board, however, everyone was just ridiculously welcoming, and Lynne was back. Basically, that moment, and then that was gone. It was just wonderful.
That's the thing, though, but nobody ever prepares you for that, right?
Nobody tells you that there is an M1 on a ship.
Yeah.
And people were saying to me, oh, it's just down the M1, just left off the M1. I'm thinking, that's a road? What are you talking about? There's no signposts. Obviously, you then realise that's a massive corridor that runs through the length of the ship. But
so with a lot of English companies, it's called the M1, right? And then I think I've worked for various ones, but I've also had I-95 is what it's called for the American cruise lines. And Burma Road, I've had it called Burma Road before.
Burma Road, really?
Yeah, and I don't know what that's in reference to, actually, but if anyone's listening and you do get on a ship and people are like, oh, it's just off Burma Road, it's off the main corridor, basically, isn't it? Like along the bottom of the crew deck.
Yeah, it's like it's the trunk to the tree, isn't it? Like everything is from there, everything there, up, sideways, But so little things like that then brought that feeling of terror back. Oh my God, like, I don't know where I am, I don't know who I am again. But then there's just so many people. It's a little village that there is always somebody you can approach, and that is the one thing I will say about ships. And the one thing I've struggled with since coming home, because I think I've become so accustomed to it, you just talk to everyone.
Yeah.
And everyone answers you. Even if they barely speak any English, you can have a conversation because people try, and there's a want there to get to know people. Whereas I've come home, and I've been home 8 years now, and I still struggle with the fact that people aren't like, that's not life. That's
no, exactly.
bubble.
It's so true. But people, even just walking down the street, like you say, like walking down the M1 or walking down any of the corridors, we're encouraged to say hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, like just as a polite thing, because that can brighten up somebody's day. Whereas walking down the street, I'll say, I'm still working on ships, so I will do it, and people look at us like I'm a weirdo.
Huh?
Like, what you saying hello to us for?
Who are you?
Yeah. Just being polite. So you settled in quite quickly? And kind of back then, was there obviously cruise ships now have become a lot more family orientated, whereas before I guess you would just assume that it was older people who were cruising. And as youth staff, were there a lot of kids on board?
So 100%. So everybody said to us, how are you going on like to look after kids? Because obviously I don't even know if I've said yet, but that's what I went on for as youth staff, and actually seasonal. So I was just going on for the summer holidays.
Okay.
And I said, well, obviously they must do, because I've got a job. I mean, I'm not going to be taking the nanas and grandas swimming, am I? So I got on, absolutely hundreds of kids, and I'm talking hundreds. So Oceania was a smaller ship, and my first cruise, we had 680 children on board, which now, I mean, is nothing compared to what some ships carry now, and what I continue to, we got bigger and bigger, and I ended up finishing on Britannia with nearly 2,000 children, but 600 on Oceania, and they were all split up into different age groups, and you were employed to work with a particular age group. And I had my eyes open because these families, I was thinking to these kids don't even know they were born. Like I used to go to Flamingo Land in a caravan, and like there's these kids that cruise every summer, and I was like, and they weren't all like really posh kids either,
No.
lovely, normal, down to earth families, um, who, because they were from down south, knew of the cruise ship industry and
Yeah.
how cheap it is and how much value for money it is as a holiday, especially when you've got children. But being from up north, it just didn't, at that point, it hadn't reached the north
Hmm.
of England. And I remember my very first cruise in the summer. It was my first season, and it was the last cruise of the summer, last 2 weeks in August. I'd settled in by then. I'd found my way around. I knew where I was going. I wasn't late for work.
Mm.
And this family arrived, and they were only from Jarrow. And I was like, they come in, and it was the first Geordie accent I had heard in about, I want to say about 9 weeks. It would have been.
Wow.
Um, oh my God, where are you from? Where are you from? I was like, Kevin. They were like, oh, from Jarrow. And I was like, what school do the kids go to? And it was like, they were my best friends. And
Yeah.
literally, and I had an early finish one night during the cruise, and they'd come and they'd said, so when's your early finish? So I told them, they're like, come on, we'll take you out for some drinks. Like,
Oh.
it's just lovely. And I'm still in touch with them now. Like, but I was like, how did you know about this? Turns out, though, Dad used to travel around the UK for his work and did a lot of work in Southampton. So that's how he knew about the cruise.
Right.
So still, it hadn't creeped up the country. Like,
No.
we just didn't know about it in the Northeast.
Yeah. That's so lovely though. Like I'm exactly the same. As soon as I hear a northern accent, even like never mind northeast, I'll speak to them, be like, "Hello, where you from?" Blah blah blah. Like I even went into business with guests that I met from the northeast. Like a couple of years later. Like, but that's the most amazing thing, and that for you to say this still, you still stay in touch with them. That's so lovely.
Yeah, it is. It really is. But that's where the groups of friendships that you build at sea that you've got no idea is going to happen. You build a new family as such.
Yeah.
But then I've found that a lot of my friends from home are also friends with my friends from sea, because people visit, we stay in touch, and you just build a whole other community, don't you?
Yeah, you do. And that's what's so lovely, like, because you're all in this bubble, and you've got to live that together. You're all going through whatever it is. Everything, all even the littlest thing is like magnified to like the biggest problem in the world or the biggest deal in the world. And you've all got to deal with that together. So I think everybody you do come together quite quickly.
Yeah. I mean, you do. And I'm not going to lie, though, it can at times be lonely. I'm not, I mean, I will always speak about cruise ship life in a positive way. And I
Yeah.
100%, everyone I meet, I mean, even now in my job, young people come into work and I'm like, what are you doing here? Like they'll say, I'm a nursery nurse, I'm a teacher's assistant. So I'm like, right, here's the address, this is the website, get yourself away. Like I'll tell anybody to go and do it, but I will give them the truth. And as much as I will always sing every cruise ship's praises, it can be lonely, and you have to be able to put yourself in that group. If you're the type of person that is just going to constantly sit outside and watch, then yes, it will be a lonely place. You have to be confident enough to say, hi, I'm here, this is who I am, what we're doing today. Oh,
Ab-
you're going in a room, I'll come with you. Because if you don't, then you're going to end up on crew deck on your own.
Absolutely. No,
Well,
that's the thing. You've got to put yourself forward, don't you? You've
yeah,
got to. You've
you
got
do.
to have you find that confidence somewhere. Like I'm quite socially anxious. And I think that's developed as I've got older, which is very odd. But
Mm.
it now I have to really make an effort to get to know people, like, and put myself in that situation. But it also helps by saying hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening.
Yeah, and I think that's why um, the industry promotes that so much, about speaking to each other on the M1, I-95, whichever it is,
Yeah.
because it does make sure you build up those communities on board, you build your bubble, and then you've always got somebody there with you, because
Yeah.
family and friends are hundreds of thousands of miles away.
And the Wi-Fi is not always great. Or back, but we didn't have it, to be fair, back in the early
No,
days.
Well, we had to buy, I don't know whether it's still the case, but when you talk about Wi-Fi, we had to buy these little internet cards.
Hmm.
Still do that.
No, but
Oh,
I remember them. I had them when I first started. Yeah.
and I was like, what is this? And then you had to buy an internet card. And bearing in mind, I didn't have a smartphone. I only had me Nokia 64, which by the way, I would still take back today if I could. And then there's BlackBerry. Everyone was saying you need to get a BlackBerry. You're gonna have to get a BlackBerry because you can message people. And it was free using the BlackBerry.
Right. Yeah.
But you had to like go to the computer room with your internet card and scratch the code off.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to lie, half the time I used to think, I haven't got time to go and do that. Like, I want to do this, and this. So
Yeah.
people later, or when I'm in port, or
Yeah. Exactly. So as youth staff, do you get much time off? Because the stigma against us performers is that we live this life of, or anyone in entertainment, to be fair, because the youth are part of the entertainment department. Did you get much time off?
so. When I was thinking, before actually speaking to you, I was thinking, everything's really positive. Was there any struggles? And I struggled to think the struggles, if I'm truthfully honest with you, because I think I did it so long ago that now, even those negative things have turned into a funny story.
Yeah.
Did we get much time off? No, not at all. However, we were definitely better off than some other departments. And I would 100% say better off than housekeeping, better off
Yes.
than beverage, definitely. But we weren't quite where the show cast were. Now, the majority of my friends were in the cast, so I used to be foreman.
Yeah, they're like getting off the gun when you're like, no, come back, let me come with you.
Like, you can all have a drink today. I've got to go back to go to work.
Yeah.
But the way it's done, it makes you feel like you've got time off. This is going to sound crazy to somebody who doesn't understand, but I used to go on board for 6-month contracts. And within those 6 months contracts, I worked every single day. So that was whether it was a turnaround day, which is where the passengers are getting on and off, or whether it was a sea day, or whether it was a port day. Every single day at some point I had a shift. Okay. And I think we are the only department that does operate that way, because the shoppies get the port days off unless they're on import, which I'll talk about in a minute. The spa do as well. They only have a skeleton staff on. Obviously, Ents only have a skeleton staff on. So, and then they get the night off if they're working during the day. So I think we are the only department that operates that way. However, I would honestly say, if I wasn't so old now, I would 100% go back and do it again. Now, the reason for that is we used to do split shifts. So you would get to work for 8:30 in the morning, but you would finish at 1 o'clock. And then you didn't have to be back on board till 5 or 6 or 7, dependent. And then you would work a couple of hours in the evening and be finished by, what time did we used to finish by like 8:30, so we could always go and catch the last show as well.
Yeah.
Or if you worked the afternoon, you'd have all morning till like 2 o'clock. And then you'd come back, you'd work the afternoon, you'd have an hour off, and then you'd work late into the evening, so say 11 o'clock.
Mm-hmm.
The best shift, though, if you were working with the younger children, was what we called night nursery. So we used to have the whole day off until 6 o'clock. We used to start night nursery at 6 and finish at 2 in the morning. So yes, you couldn't go for dinner and you couldn't see the show, but you'd have the whole day in port.
All day. Yeah, exactly.
So we worked every day, but what benefited us was we never did a full day in Port Manning. We only ever did the half a day when we were on shift.
Yeah.
But it gave us the opportunity to get off in every port, whereas other departments would miss ports because it was their day to work that day. So
yeah,
don't get me wrong, exhausting. But you sleep when you're dead, don't you?
Well, exactly. And that's the thing. They always say, go live it and make the most of it.
Yeah.
So
work
you mentioned...
and party like a pirate.
Yeah. Say that again.
Work like a captain and party like a pirate.
I love it. So you're saying that you never did Import Manning? You were never on the manifest for Import Manning?
No, we did,
right.
But it was only for the time while you were working. So we had a split Import Manning. Now,
okay.
I don't know what that is. Import Manning is where when you're in a port, if all of the ship's company got off and went and had a lovely time, who's there for those passengers that actually might have been to Rome a million times and don't want to get off?
Yeah.
So many of a percentage of the ship's company always had to stay on board. And obviously not just for the passengers, for an emergency. So well. So, and we used to sign children in as well on a port day because, like I say, some kids were lucky enough to have been on 10 cruises. They didn't want to go to Barcelona. They'd seen the football stadium. They didn't need to go back.
Yeah.
So we used to run activities during the day, but our import manning, so when we were covering our card, would only be until 1 o'clock. And then someone else would take over from our department at 1 o'clock. So we could then get off in the afternoon. Whereas I think we were the only department that had that luxury as well, if I'm truthfully honest with you.
Yeah, I've never heard of that before.
Mm.
So that's you're really lucky.
It was really, really lucky. I mean, the overnights, because we were lucky enough to do many an overnight. The overnights there used to be a bit of a fight. So I'm going to keep the card and stay on board because obviously everyone wants to get off. But I used to do that once I'd been at sea a few years and I was promoted to manager then. I used to take that because I used to think, do you know what? I've been there and done it. Let them go and see it. And I'll take one off a month. So everyone used to like working for us for that reason because I would definitely hold that card.
That was my next question as well. So you went from youth staff to becoming youth manager. What was the process? How did that come about? Is it something that you applied for? Were you interested in it?
No. So now it is. Now there is an application process. And now they'll take managers on from the get-go. So say you're a nursery manager, especially for the youth department, or you're a teacher with a little bit of managerial experience.
Yeah.
And apply as manager and go straight in as manager. I don't quite know whether that's the best way to do it because I think you have to understand the life of your team and the life they've got, where they're eating, because that's another story.
Yeah.
Compared to where you're eating as a manager, because it's completely different. I think unless you understand that, it could cause a bit of friction within the team. But no, I didn't. So what happened was one of the managers on the Oriana, I don't know whether you've ever heard that phrase before, broke his leg playing football and had to be sent home for treatment. So our youth manager was moved over there and the cruise director, who is one of the most fabulous people I've ever met in my life, unfortunately just lost him this year, so that's a bit raw. But he said, Lynne can do it. I was like, what? No, I don't think I can. I mean, at this point, I'd only done one season as seasonal. I'd done summer, and then I went home, and then P&O rang us and said, we've got another contract for you. Do you want to go back in 4 weeks? So at that point, I handed me notice in at school and said, look, I'm going now. I'm going for good. It's not job. Anyway, got back on, did another few weeks, and then Hughie said, yeah, do it. And I was thinking, I can't do this. There's no way. But I was dropped in at the deep end and, dropped in 10-foot end and had to learn to swim. And actually, I had a wonderful team, so it was fine. They knew I understood their position. They understood the position I'd been put in. And it worked really, really well. And then one of the other girls left after that stint of 6 weeks that I did. So then I was just offered that permanent promotion. I was in the right time, I think. And I know a lot of people don't get that opportunity. So I was like, do you know what? It's been handed to us on a plate. I'm going to take that plate.
Yeah, absolutely. And sometimes the best way to learn is by just being thrown in, right?
Yeah. And for me, it definitely was. I mean, I wasn't shy of a microphone. I wasn't shy of a stage and I wasn't shy of an audience. As a child, I'd danced, I'd performed, I'd done amateurs and stuff. So it didn't bother us. Had I been a teaching assistant and a nursery nurse and never been in that position, I think I probably would have struggled. But faced with 2,000-3,000 passengers and a microphone running an event on top deck, I was in my element. So I think that's why I found it that little bit easier. Definitely.
Nice.
Definitely.
That's amazing. So when you got that promotion, obviously you worked so you did P&O and you did Cunard as well, right? Yeah. So because they just intertwined as a company, you were placed wherever.
Yeah, so I don't know whether it happens with all departments, and I don't believe it does, but because I know shops are slightly different and spas slightly different, but because the youth department for P&O and Cunard are manned from Southampton under the same director, he then could be sent anywhere on any ship, and you never got a choice. So it was, you always wanted the Caribbean or the world cruises, but you could have been put in the Med again for a New Year in Madeira, which is wonderful. Fireworks are amazing, but it's not like being in Barbados.
No, or just constantly doing transatlantic on Queen Mary 2.
Oh yeah, I couldn't. Do you know what? Now that you've said that, very, very lucky. Only ever did that once and then flew back. I had to be moved ship.
Oh no, I did it for, I think we were doing it for about 3 months, 4 months.
Okay.
It was a lot, a lot, a lot. I mean, I loved it because I love that ship. It's probably my favorite ship aesthetically, and the ballroom and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
But that was hard.
Yes.
Like to do that many sea days so many times, and then obviously you're only so you got like Southampton 6 days at sea or 7 days at sea, New York backwards and forwards. That it's intense, and that's where you become. Then you're talking about the loneliness.
Yeah.
That's when you become lonely.
Yes, 100%. And I can liken that to the world cruises as well, where yes, okay, it's wonderful. You're on your way to Singapore, you're on your way to San Francisco or wherever, but you've got 9 sea days to get there, and sometimes we didn't have many kids on board, and people might think that's wonderful, but oh my god, it's that long days. It's like yourselves, like you're not doing a show every day, are you?
Well, that's the thing. You'd rather be at work because otherwise, if you're at work and there's nothing to do, you're bored and time goes a lot longer.
Exactly, it does, it really does. And yeah, those sea days, especially if the weather's not great, you can't get up on crew deck, you're not at work, there's nowhere to go. Now that's when you hit those, that is when you can hit those lows.
Yeah.
And that's when that community comes together. So you would then be saying to someone, should we nip to the gym? Do you want to come around and watch this movie? Like,
Yeah.
so one of my best friends was part of the cast. And we've spent many a sea day just lying on the bed watching movies, watching box sets, because there was nothing that there's nothing else to do. The passengers got their areas, but on a sea day, you can't go up there. I mean, you probably could as show cast.
Yeah.
And as youth staff, youth manager, I could, however.
Yeah.
But I don't want to be lying amongst all the kids playing in the pool thinking, oh, I'm just trying to get a bit of peace. So it's difficult to find that balance. And I think unless you find that balance on those types of cruises, then yeah, it can be difficult and, like you say, lonely. And then when you get to New York, you haven't just got your IPM to do. You've got USPH, and you've got what were they called? That security used to come on and do all the checks.
Coast Guard.
Coast Guard.
Yeah.
I mean, so then you can't get off till 3-4 in the afternoon anyway.
then you're getting straight back on because there's no time. What was
coming back?
Yeah. Yeah. What was the difference between, obviously it's the same company, but what was the difference between P&O and Cunard in terms of the guests? I guess let's talk specifically about the kids. What was the difference in probably numbers, I guess, more than anything?
Definitely numbers. Numbers, but you've hit the nail on the head saying there the difference is guests and facilities as well, because they don't carry as many children ever, and they are a different caliber of children. So I would say with P&O, I used to cruise with families like my own family. But with Cunard, you can get, I mean, well, the owner of the, can I say it? I don't know if I can say this, can I?
I can edit if you look back and you go, can you take that out? I'll take it out.
All right, okay. So I just don't know whether I'm allowed. So the owner of a very big brand of fizzy drink. Probably
we can talk about that.
Can we? Okay, right.
Yeah.
So the like Coca-Cola owners who like have that whole umbrella, they cruise with their kids. I mean, their kids like obviously don't need to think about like life or money and I mean the tips they used to leave like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds pounds worth of tips, where on P&O it didn't matter whether you got a tip, the kids had a nice time.
Yeah.
I was very much more a P&O girl, I would say. But you would see a lot more of older clientele on Cunard, but the work wasn't as hard. So Oh, it's very much a 50-50. I mean, I 100% say I personally, for me, prefer P&O, but Cunard's are beautiful ships,
Hmm.
stunning. There is, they're smaller, well, some of them are. So I think
You
for
don't
me,
have to choose. You don't have to choose that. They both have their own unique
yeah,
qualities.
both have their own unique qualities, but definitely there's a whole different clientele. Shall we say, Cunard is definitely an older clientele with fewer children, or was. I mean, now it could have changed, but was definitely, and they were definitely of a higher
Class.
class. Yes, thank you. Yes, definitely of a higher class. But what's crazy is there's no difference really in the price, and sometimes Cunard's cheaper than P&O is.
That's so true.
I think it's the brand that it's built out to be, the
Yeah.
best boy outfits and everything with Cunard, whereas, but it's a uniform, and I think it's the brand that stems from the old Titanic days of class, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. Well, the Titanic was White Star.
Yeah,
So obviously when we're working on Cunard, you
it
were
will.
delivering that White Star service, so the gloves and everything.
Yes. Uh,
So
yeah.
so let's talk about some of the amazing because you did it for so long, you've experienced so many things. Like you sent me a list, yeah, and I'm like, these are incredible. And but first, well, let's start with a classic boatyard in
Oh,
Barbados.
don't, because it's not even sunny here. So the boatyard in Barbados now, oh my word. I mean, is there another place on earth like it?
There's not.
I don't think there is. And I think the reason for all that is not just the sand, it's not just the sea, it's the locals, it's what they built it as. It's, oh God, for me, it's one of the best places in the world. And I think it's because it holds so many amazing memories. You can go to the Bahamas, you can go to the Maldives, you can go to Mauritius, you
Yeah.
can go anywhere. But that Carlisle Bay, that beach, there's something about it. And I don't know what it is. I think
It's amazing.
I think they drug the water. So that was initially built, when I first started going to the boatyard, it was, for anyone actually listening that doesn't understand what we're talking about first, let me start there.
Oh,
The boatyard is a beach bar. I don't think I'm going to make it sound as good as it is, with a massive long pier and a rope swing on the end, inflatables in the water, the best cocktails ever, great food, and a free turtle snorkel. Like, you just get on the boat and go out and snorkel with the turtles. And it's run by an amazing set of local Barbadians
yeah.
on a pristine beach. When I first started going there, we went there purely because the dive shop was next door and I was learning to scuba dive at the time. And then it was a tiny little bar with a few sunbeds and yeah, that was it. There was
Oh,
no roof on it, there was no restaurant, there was no nothing. And because all of the crew used to go on a regular basis, they've built up their industry. We actually helped them build that industry and build that place. So I think that's
yeah.
why we find it such an amazing place, because they look after the cruise ship crew so much.
Yeah.
We get a special deal when we go there, which I forget about when I've been on local leave. And then I'm like, oh, I've got to pay for things now.
I know.
Um, yeah, it's just everybody goes there, everybody meets there. I mean, the passengers started finding out about it, so that did change it dramatically as well.
There are a lot of passengers there now.
Really?
Yeah, I'd say it's about 50 feet. I mean, it's still really good and you can still really enjoy yourself, but it's not what it was in a way
Oh,
that you can sit and relax and enjoy yourself as much, because you do have those beady eyes, and because we are constantly on alert and representing the cruise
yeah.
line, you have to be really alert of who's around you. Like if the guests off your ship, if they guests off another ship, I'd say it's about 50-50 there now.
Wow. Oh my
Yeah,
God, that's changed in the last 8 years. I could see it.
literally.
It was definitely creeping in, but it definitely wouldn't have been a 50-50. But there's a story about the boatyard. So when Oceana was in Barbados, we used to do Caribbean every year. And the boatyard was struggling a little bit, let's say. And they did need a boost. So we paid to hire the boatyard one evening, and we put on a cruise show. So they've got like a little stage area. I don't know whether they've still got it, but they had this wooden stage.
Yeah.
Like literally showcast youthies, some of the bar staff. Because you'd be amazed what talent is within the crew. I mean, the
absolutely.
Filipinos, their voices are unbelievable when they sing. So yeah, we put on this cruise show at the boatyard, and like loads of locals came to watch and everything. And I mean, what they didn't then do was they didn't charge us for our drinks, because we were in the show, which they probably should have done. They'd have made more money, but actually it made a massive amount for them and made them realise they could open on an evening as well. So that really helped them promote their business. But
that's amazing.
That was cool. That was really cool.
Wow. Yeah, it doesn't, I don't think it gets utilised. The stage definitely doesn't get utilised as it could.
Right.
Like now, definitely. But I mean, I was there earlier this year and I still love it. I'll still go. Everyone will still be like, right, we're in Barbados. We're going to Boatyard today.
Yeah.
Like, absolutely.
I mean, one of the guys I work with now, he's just been on holiday out there, and he said, what would you say I should do? And I wrote him a list. I do this for everyone. Wrote him a list in all the ports of different things to do, with depending on what he wanted and what he liked. And one of the things was the boatyard, and he came back to me and said, Lynn, that was one of the best places I've ever been in my life. And he never went like that. So yeah.
Love it. One of the things you talked about is obviously being away for such a long period of time.
Yeah.
But so like you'll miss out on like family events and all that sort of stuff. Especially if you were there at Christmas. Christmas is a big thing. I mean, for us in the Northeast, especially. Do you know what I mean? For a lot of people around the world. So what was Christmas like on board? Because I have never actually spoke to anybody about this on the podcast yet. What's Christmas like on board?
Christmas is unbelievable. It's a roller coaster of emotions. Okay, so I think working for the youth department it's amazing. It's the best time of year. I'm not gonna lie, you're on your knees by 9 o'clock Christmas night, but it's so much fun. Everybody wants to just have a nice time.
Yeah.
The kids are excited, even the teenagers are excited, but I've never done a cold Christmas, so that always made it really weird. Like,
yeah,
I was always in the Caribbean, or even like round the Canaries, which is still warm at Christmas. So that made it completely different, and we had to really become innovative to try and make sure Christmas happened. Because the difficulty you face is some passengers go away to get away from Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
And then there we are, throwing it in their faces.
Yeah.
On the centre on the funnel. But those passengers then always used to come and say, you've really got the right balance, and thank you. Like, I've had passengers without children come and say to me, we thought this was going to be horrendous, but actually you've opened our eyes. This was wonderful. So what we used to do was Christmas Eve, and we used to do a massive, huge Santa's arrival. And Santa used to come on board via the gangway, and I was stood there my first Christmas, and I was watching. I was thinking, yes, all the adults can watch and run down the quayside in Barbados, but the kids can't see it. They've got their faces pressed against the glass, and I'm like, stand back, stand back. Just wasn't great. So I said, can I please create a Christmas? Can I create a Christmas Eve and a Santa's arrival? But I want to do it as it starts to get a little bit dark. Luckily, I had my most amazing cruise director with me, and luckily we had a great captain who was very understanding, who said, okay, what you thinking? So we had a meeting, and I said, what I've got in my head is Santa comes down on the funnel. We're looking at the sky for him. We see him come over in the sky. We hear the bells come over the tannoy, and then he appears on the funnel, and then we all have a massive party. And they were like, okay, write the script, sort it out, and we'll see what happens. So I don't think they thought I was actually going to do it.
Yeah.
So I went and spoke to the engineer. Like, right, does anyone fancy getting dressed up as Santa? And can you actually get up the funnel? Chief engineer was like, yeah, Lynn, no bother. Yeah, we can sort that. Right, okay, that's the biggest hurdle I thought was really easy.
Yeah.
Wrote the script, got the bells to the bridge, and then said to the captain, I would really like you to come and read the kids a story in the atrium, which for those that don't know is like the centre of the passenger area of the ship. Mm-hmm. and will tell all of the ship's passengers that it's happening, so everyone can come and watch. Obviously, safeguarding wise, we had to clear it with all the kids' parents, which we did. I mean, hundreds of them. Captain came and read a story, and then as the story finished, we got the officer on watch to put the bells through the ship's tannoy. Well, you can imagine their little faces. And then
That sounds so magical.
it was totally. We went up onto the top deck. We'd cleared an area so the kids could view it, because the previous year they couldn't see a thing.
Yeah.
I asked production manager about shining the lights in the sky and stuff, and having the music going in the background, and they'd said, "Yep, no bother." Well, he then went a step further and said, "What about a snow machine?" I was like, "Shut up. Can we have a snow machine?" No, I'm not being us. Like, it goes slippy on the floor. He's like, "I'll make sure it's only on the carpet in the evening."
Yeah.
So if you can picture this story, so the bells went off over the tannoy. Officer on the watch says, "There's an unidentified object in the sky, but I can hear bells. I don't know what it is." And he was really, really good. Like, even he would just put an accent on and everything. Then all of a sudden, this snow comes down onto the kids on the carpet. The kids are like, we get them all upstairs. Production manager's already set, shining the spotlights in the sky. So the kids are like, "There he is, there he is, there he is." And then the bells get closer and closer and closer and louder and louder. And then the spotlight shoots to the funnel, and there's the engineer. I've just totally ruined the story. I've just realised what I've done. And then there's Santa on the funnel. And then our Santa, our actual Santa, then came out and came round and did a walk round. Like,
oh, wow.
But they've kept that in place. So I do, as far as I'm aware, still to this day, a lot of the majority of the P&O ships use it. And they even did it on Arcadia that doesn't have any children.
Wow.
Just loved it so much.
Yeah.
But it made a fortune for bars. Everyone was up there drinking Prosecco. And then they carried on into a Christmas Eve deck party.
That's amazing.
It was unreal. And then Christmas Day, though, this is where I'm torn and I've got complete mixed emotions. So that was real, didn't think anything of it. Christmas Day, I always used to create a nativity with the kids, and we used to do it in the theatre on the big stage following the Christmas morning service.
Yeah.
Which, much to production manager's dismay, hated.
Just more work, isn't it? No one wants more work.
He'd be like, "Lynn, don't let them touch anything. What are you doing? Get back from there." He was furious. But we made it work. And in the end, he really did love it. Nobody thought anyone would come and watch. There was people queuing out the doors to watch.
Yeah, I bet.
Of course, it's Christmas. Anyway, so bearing in mind, we don't finish till midnight on Christmas Eve. Everyone's partying down in the crew bar. We then go and join the party for a little bit. You're then up at 6, 7 o'clock in the morning, because you've got the nativity at, say, 10, but you need Santa's grotto. Some needs to be ready.
Yeah.
The nativity, they go for the Christmas lunch. And as a manager, we then had to go and serve Christmas lunch in the crew mess. And then you come back, and we used to do this Christmas fun at the Fete, and we used to set up loads of old-fashioned Fete stalls around the pool. And the kids used to come and play hook a duck, or guess the youthy, or guess how many sweets in the jar, and loads of different stalls like that. Splat the youthy as well. We used to put youthy in the stocks and throw sponges at them. And
oh, wow.
But Santa's grotto was going on at the same time, and that had to be set up. So I've seen me and my wife Danny, because I met my wife at sea. We'd be up at like 6 o'clock in the morning on Christmas Day, setting Santa's grotto up before nativity, before the fete, and then you've got to make sure every child gets the right present through seeing Santa. They never noticed a thing. It was always seamless for the passengers. They had the most amazing time, but man, we couldn't ring home.
Right, yeah.
So you'd run down to the cabin and ring home and be like, "Oh, just ringing to say Merry Christmas." And I don't know why, but we always seem to hit the time where the whole family was sat together around the table. Like, "I've done it again. What have I done? Why am I ringing you at this time?"
So you can't have a proper conversation. You can't, do you know what I mean? You can't really
No.
get that moment that you really want.
So that got a little bit emotional, and that's that lonely low.
Mm-hmm.
But then, you know what? Then you're back with your crew. You're sorting out all your games. You're having fun. The kids' faces. And then literally I used to drop and I'd say, right, I need to go and eat something. So we'd then go for our dinner at like 6, 7 o'clock. And Danny and I would always take that night off because we'd literally been working from 6 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
So yeah, again, it's a two-edged sword, isn't it? Like amazing, but very emotional as well.
Yeah, absolutely. You mentioned Danny there. Let's talk a little bit about love on cruise ships, because there's always this stigma of there's all these parties and all these things going on. Everyone's getting with each other, which sometimes it is that case. But I love that you met someone on a ship, because I'm single, so I'm still very much, looking for love, and I go on every cruise ship and I'm like, right, I'm gonna find her this time, and it never happens. But I love that you found somebody whilst working on a cruise ship and are still together, and it's worked out.
And it's crazy, because actually we actually technically met at Newcastle Airport on the way to join Oceania. We were flying down to join Oceania and then got together like a couple of years later. Yeah, a year later when she came back on the same ship. But we had to make it work, because people think like you're in this bubble, you meet the love of your life, and then you're always on the same ship together. Company don't care that you're together. They really don't, and they'll just move you at the drop of a hat. And long distance relationships, you think we can do it, we can make this work, but it's not easy.
No.
Like, especially when you're both at sea, both working, both got internet signal, it's separate parts of the world. Like, you'd try and ring, you couldn't get through. I'd think, right, I'm going to the office and I'm using the ship's phone because this is ridiculous. Like, you'd try and FaceTime, it would get cut off. You can't send letters because you don't know which port you're going to be in next. Like,
yeah,
it really wasn't easy, but we were really, really lucky that we were together for a long time before we got married, and we got married while we were still at sea. And we said that we would come back, but on the condition that we were able to work on the same ship. And Danny was assistant youth manager, so we didn't know if they were going to go for it.
But that power trip.
And I think sometimes as well, like if the team had a problem with one of us, like, where does it go?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That was part of the company did think, are we going to be able to do this? But they give it a trial and they let us. And do you know what? It worked a dream. Like, we were great to work with. We got on well with my team. Like, we didn't really have any issues at all. We worked well together, and the company went for it. And they said, on the condition that if we do need to move you for any reason, like somebody goes ill on another ship, you have got to be able to just move at the last minute. And it happened, and we were, but we had to make it work. We really did. And I think if we hadn't have left when we left, it might not have worked as well as it has, because it causes real difficulties not seeing each other for months on end.
Yeah, exactly. So what was that decision how did you come to that decision to leave and to stop? Because it's very hard to go, do you know what? I'm done, and never go back. It's very, very hard. How did you come to that decision together?
Well, it's an addiction, isn't it?
Yeah.
It is an addiction. And it's an addiction because of the places you see and the people you meet. So we've been back 8 years now. Now, the big draw was my sister-in-law was pregnant. Our other nephew was at an age where we could start building a relationship with him. He wasn't a baby anymore. We knew we were going to miss out on things. And my parents weren't very well. My dad had been in and out of hospital. I mean, at one point I'd just flown back to Barbados after he'd had an operation, and then I'd just got back on the ship, and that afternoon got a call to say, Lynne, you're going to have to go back home. Like, when that happens more than once, you think, right, okay. Danny's parents were getting that little bit older. And I think we'd done so many years consistently that we thought, if we don't make this break now, when are we? And how are we then going to build a life at home? I mean, I wasn't young. Like, I was 40-year-old.
Right.
So I was thinking, like, my life is, what am I going to do?
Well, that's the thing.
We haven't got a house. We haven't. Do you know what I mean? Like, I think you can cross that line where then it becomes a point where you're never going to get that.
Yeah.
And we what we wanted. we knew we wanted that relationship with our family, especially our nephews and obviously our parents. And we're friends, like they'd all got married and had kids, and we were missing out on a lot. So yeah, we thought, right, we've saved money. If we don't leave now, we're going to spend that money. We've got a deposit for a house. We've had our wedding. We've got no real debt at all, because that's what another thing ship life can do for you. You can put a lot of money up. Now's the right time. And do you know what? It really was, because it was 2017. So when COVID hit, we actually both had stable jobs.
Wow, you're so lucky.
And I know, and we realised how lucky we were, because a lot of our friends were still at sea. It was contract work that just ended. And then what do you do?
I know.
So
that's the thing. I'm at that stage now. I'm like, I'm finding that so hard to give it up, because for me dancing days are slowly coming to an end. But I'm at that frame where I want a family. I want to settle down. I want to, I've got loads of nieces and nephews. My sister's, 15, nearly 16. I'm like, I've missed out on so much, and I'm like, I really want to experience a little bit of what I would call muggle life.
But it's difficult as a performer, I think, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I'm truthfully honest with you. We were very naive coming home. I would say to anyone, if you're leaving sea, please even just think about how much knives and forks cost. Like, we had no idea. We bought the house. It's a beautiful house. We managed to get like a lovely detached, like lovely garden. We've built a bar in the garden, and then okay. Knives and forks cost a fortune. Shopping costs a fortune. Bills every month. You didn't even realise you had to pay them every month, because we'd just sailed around the world for so long. So I would say to anyone, if you are thinking about leaving, just that one last contract can build up that extra money.
That's great advice. That's absolutely brilliant advice. Well, let's do a little quick fire before we finish. I feel like we could literally talk forever and ever. You've got so many stories. I love it. I'll have to get you back on, and we'll talk more things. What's the
destinations? I'll do one of the destinations.
Oh, absolutely. That was my question. What's your favorite destination you've been to?
Oh, ask me that, Gary. You should know that's impossible. Right. Can I give you city, beach, and obscure place?
Absolutely.
Right. So city-wise, San Francisco. Love it. I know most people say Sydney, most people say New York, but San Francisco, loved it. As far as beaches are concerned, Bora Bora was stunning, but I'm sorry, Barbados, Carlisle Bay. I can't.
There we go.
Everyone across the world, but Barbados, yeah, it's amazing. And obscure, we actually managed to get to the Falkland Islands and step on them. So yeah.
Oh wow.
Absolutely loved that island. So yeah.
I bet that's just an experience in itself, right?
Yeah, unbelievable.
Yeah, amazing. What is your favorite activity you have done off a ship? Like an excursion kind of thing?
Okay. Do you know what? Oh God. This is supposed to be quick fire. God. So yeah, do you know what? Danny's just shouted of his Lynne biplane. I'm like, yes. So we booked a skydive in New Zealand, but the guy also had this tiny little Biggles biplane. And because I'd booked the trip and took so many people, he said to us, you go up for free. I mean, he wasn't daft, because everyone else then wanted to go up as well. And But that was unbelievable, sitting in an old-fashioned biplane with the Biggles goggles on and all the kit, and doing loops and down, and yeah, unreal.
That's so cool. What's one thing you wish you'd known before going on your first cruise ship?
Oh God, before going on my first cruise ship, I wish I'd known that there are so many sea days and they are so long. Someone had described a sea day to me. Yeah.
It's like a weekend in one. It's like a long weekend in one day.
Yeah, it really. Yeah.
What is one thing that you couldn't not take on every contract you've been on? One object.
My underwater camera.
Yes, that's a good one.
I've never used it since we come home.
But you can use it on your holidays now. You're all right.
Well, yeah, you can. It's just not the same, is it?
No.
You do those adventures.
Have you been back on a cruise ship? This isn't quick fire. This is me just asking you now. Have you been back on a cruise ship since you left them?
No.
No. And would you consider going on a cruise ship as a holiday, or do you think it would ruin
I'm
your
worried
experience? Yeah.
because loads of people have asked for it. I mean, our parents, they were devastated when we left. As much as they didn't want me to go in the first, they were like, "What, you're leaving? Where we're going to go on holiday?" And they're always saying, "Let's book a ship. Like, let's go on a cruise, all our friends." I don't know. Definitely, I don't think I could do P&O. I would just want to be in the crew bar. I would just want to be in, like, I don't, and so many people on that one deck. I like crew deck.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm still, after 8 years, not at the point where I think I would get on a ship for a holiday.
Maybe try the smaller ones. Like do you know what I mean? The smaller ones so that it's a little bit you
Or a
feel a little bit more part of it.
different company, so we didn't know anybody.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Now, one last thing. What is your message to anyone who is about to embark on their first contract on a cruise ship that, give them advice or your one last message to those people?
Don't give up after your first few weeks because you're going to feel lonely. Keep going. Say hi to everyone. And no matter how scared you are, put yourself in the group. Don't stand on the outside. Make a point of being in that group. Work hard and play hard because that's when you get the best of both worlds. Like I said before, work like a captain and party like a pirate because the harder you work, the more opportunities you're going to get.
I love that. And we'll leave it on that. What a way to end. Lynn, thank you so much. Come on.
Nice to meet you, Gary. Thank you. I've
Oh,
loved it.